Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. You're watching OBN Horn of Africa. This is Future Africa Spotlight. Today, I'm joined by Mitre Manik. Mitre Manik is a staunch advocate of indigenous African virtues and identities. He is originally from uncolonized country, Liberia, grown up and educated in the US. However, his stay in the US never made him obsessed to Western culture. Rather, his soul and heart are strongly attached to African values. He usually appears on different African ideology affiliated media and dictates to have a united Africa. In this episode, I will be discussing on burning African affairs with him. Glad to join me again, Mr. Manik.
It's good to see you, brother. The one who comes in peace is always welcome. Positive energy and creation energy to all of you out there. Thank you for inviting me again. I'm Mitre Manik from the Liberia, West Africa. I was born there and raised there, but I grew up in the US and I studied in the US. And as I lived in Western culture and I look at the difference between Africa and Western, I've come to realize that Africa has a lot more to offer African people than the Western world has. And this strong belief that Africa is our foundation has pushed me to really see no other alternative except that we Africans have to build our own continent for ourselves. By any means necessary, we must do that. It is up to us for the future generation. We can't pass the responsibility to another generation. So this is where the organic African paradigm comes in. It's a natural identity blueprint for Africa. It takes the African identity and it tells African people, you should use your own identity instead of other people's identity. That's what we do. We teach it. We use concepts like soul, intelligence, and science. So we take the three concepts and combine them into the African identity to make the African identity fit for the next generation.
Our talking point is going to revolve around the last summit, which was held on February 5 and 6. What's your commentary and what's your insight about those remarks came out from that summit?
The 35th summit of the African Union, Assembly of the African Union, since its origin, I believe 2002, it was very, very, it gave me hope. Unlike the previous summits, I'm going to say this summit gave me a little bit of hope for the African continent. The flavor was a little bit different. So whatever they did, they're doing now, the flavor will give me a little more hope. Previously, I've saw other openings and I wasn't really, I was questioning them. But this time, the opening by the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, really touched what the African continent needs. To me, that was a strong opening for the youth to hear, because the youth, this is about the youth right now. It's about the youth of this continent. We need leadership. And when our leadership step forth and tell us their plan for the future, this is something we can jump behind and support it as the upcoming generation. We can support it, we can work for it, we can do whatever it takes for it. So when the Prime Minister, within that 15-minute speech, gave us the declaration of what Africa wants, I was very, very proud to have the next leadership of the African continent step forth and tell us what they want on behalf of Africa. To me, that's a mark of leadership. So I'm gonna stop right here so we can go a little bit into it, but I got out of that summit the mark of leadership. That's what I drew out of it. This was a mark of leadership telling us now there is leadership growing on the African continent. The seed of leadership is growing.
Okay, the remarks came out on that summit hold water to you. And you've said the flavor, everything got African sense and African affiliation. Can you mention some of the remarks spoke out by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed.
Good, good. So one of the things he said was 70 years after the creation of the United Nations, right, that Africa was still a junior partner. That really, it spoke the truth. Africa is like just that, but the majority of the UN operations occur on the African continent, right? You would think that somebody's operating in your house, but then you are a junior partner in there after 77 decades of in United Nations. So his one of the things that I stood up was asking for 2 seats on the Security Council. That was very reasonable, like he said. It is actually quite reasonable. I mean, I was actually very, very, it's like an extremely reasonable concept or demand. So to me, that really laid ground, of leadership. Again, he touched on the focus of Pan-Africanism, like the ideals of the founding fathers, that Pan-Africanism is the way where we have to now start to acknowledge this idea. Africans need this your consciousness need to ring with this idea. And when he said that Ethiopia's own recent predicament, had it not been for the support of African continent, this show of Pan-Africanism, Ethiopia might have had a little more struggle, but because of the support from all African people across the continent, this gave Ethiopia the chance to restore law and order into the country. So that was great. The food and nutrition program, the security program that the theme of food, nutrition and security theme, I thought that was a good theme. That if the African continent is truly going to go forward, maybe we need to kind of fix this security in the food insecurity issues, increase the human capacity and socioeconomical, like he talked about. He really just said what the African continent need to do. So for me, listening to what he was saying, I thought, now this is what the African continent, you have a plan now. You have a plan. Now you don't have no more excuses. Somebody came and they laid out the plan. Follow the plan and get the 2 security seats. The food security problem, the resilience and food security issues that he talked about, it needs to be taken care of. What does he talk about? The plant, the green, what is it called? Green Legacy program.
Yeah. We will come to it later.
Okay. So I will pause here for now, but this is, I want to say that he made the plan very clear. He put the plan for everybody. So
well incited, appreciate it. You've mentioned the theme of the summit this year, building resilience in nutrition to the continent Africa. Obviously, Africa has got, and the continent is endowed with very fertile land, and almost 60% of the world arable farmland is found in the continent, but the continent is characterized by malnutrition, hunger, food insecurity. What should be done to address the food insecurity question?
Okay, that's a good question. So he talked about, I think he said there was Ethiopia had 40 or something percent agriculture, but then land, and then it was reduced to 4% forestation. He talked about that in the Green Legacy Project, which is also in the sub-Saharan Africa. There's a sort of a Green Legacy Project also there. There's Green Legacy projects all across the African continent. Now, my solution, one of the things I want to say is, right, now when we look at Africa, majority of our diet, 80% of our diet comes in the form of fruits and vegetables. Is that not true? 80% of our diet comes in fruits and vegetables. So if the Green Legacy is truly going to make a difference on the African continent, I say, Green Legacy, if you can hear me, we need fruits, the things that we eat, to be planted. Fruit trees, vegetable trees, those are also, they also reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. So, but that will help reduce the food insecurities, because our diet as Africans consists of fruits, largely parts of fruits and vegetables. So if you're planting anything, don't plant trees that just produce seeds, that just occupy space, drink water, drink the minerals from the soil. Plant trees that produce fruits, that bear fruits. That is going to reduce our food insecurity by 75% if we are taking this initiative that we already are on, but we are planting the right type of things that contribute to our diet. So we need to assess our diet, then use the format of our diet to plant what we want. So this is my advice to the Green Legacy. Thank you for your work. I appreciate it. But now just convert it to make the food, the resilience and food security theme more practical. That's what I want to say.
Talking about this green legacy, Africa is being hit by deforestation, and the continent is becoming shelterless. This green legacy program is part of the sub-programs which ought to be done by the African Union commissions, but the green legacy initiative was implemented in Ethiopia for the past 4 years. And what should other African countries should learn from Ethiopia?
What they should learn from Ethiopia is the attitude of the new leadership. The attitude of the new leadership is the attitude of the people first. Now, anytime the leader has the attitude, the people first, the dignity of the people first, the pride of the people first, the culture of the people first, this is the right type of leadership. Now, one thing I like about the Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, he really emphasized African dignity, African pride, African self-respect, African, being able to be confident in the world stage. We are not inferior, we are not beneath anyone. So when the way he emphasized that, this is what I think the rest of Africa should learn. So the Green Legacy Project is one of those projects coming from a mind that is oriented, people oriented. So I think Africa, we need to start learning from each other first. There's a good example in Ethiopia. Please just take the blueprint and implement it, but make the blueprint, plant your diet. What you consume in your diet is the trees you need to plant. Don't plant trees that don't produce fruits, that drink water, take minerals from the soil, but don't produce fruit. Don't do that. Plant fruit trees that constitute 80% of your diet. That's what I want to say. Look at the blueprint in Ethiopia, take it and bring it, spread it across Africa swiftly. Don't waste time, swiftly. I'm going to stop there.
Okay. According to Agenda 2063, Africa ought to be free from the sounds of guns, silencing the guns, but still having this ambitious plan. Newly emerging terrorist elements are growing and being seen here and there. Priorly, we have been witnessing terrorism and terrorists in the east and north and some part of the Sahel region, but you can find terrorists everywhere now. And we have, entertained as a continent coup attempts, more than 6 coup attempts in a single year in 2021 and at early months of 2022. How have you seen how paradox the ambition with that of the ongoing phenomenon happening in the continent now?
So when we look at terrorism, now African continent's been around for, we are a million-year-old continent, millions of years old continent. The people are millions of years old, right? We've never had histories of terrorism. This is not the first time we as a people have lived with religion or belief systems or anything like that. We've lived with those things for a long time. And we've coexisted as Africans. Yes, we have our internecine struggles, our feuds here and there, but we've never gone so far as to destabilize our economy, our society to the degree that we are doing today. The Prime Minister said external actors. He used the word external actors. And that's the proper, appropriate terminology. There are extenuating factors that influence that serve as fuel, gasoline on these ideologies that were previously harmless, that were previously non-hostile ideologies to the growth of the continent. But there is now the influx of money from external sources. So those things can cause a motivational thing for the people to do those type of things. Now, secondly, when it comes to the coups are very, very, dynamic in a sense where some coups are done because some people are too ambitious. They want to cheat. They want to get ahead. And then some coups are done because the people demand it. When the people demand a coup, it means the people are tired. You understand? Mm-hmm. And when the people demand a coup, that is the right type of coup. It means that the government has failed the people. It doesn't matter if the government was elected democratically. When the people have done it, then that means it's different. But when it's an internal, someone trying to get ambition, that's wrong, because that means that the people never allow anyone to rule you that you haven't chosen and that you're not satisfied with. This is my understanding of African people. For us to progress, we have to be a people where when we see a good leader, a leader with a vision, a leader with a plan, a leader who produces results, we support. We rally the youth to support the leader. We protect the leader. We guide the leader. As I've said about the Ethiopian Prime Minister, he's a leader with vision. He's a leader with a purpose. We need as Africans to take that initiative to protect this kind of leadership. But when the leadership is rotten to the core, then the people must make the decision. So I'm always saying the people make the decision. So when I look at a coup, I look at it as were the people involved, were the citizens, the country, did the country demand this change? If the country demanded a change, then we have to say the country demanded it. If it's some internal things, those are unacceptable. Unacceptable. We can't have people replacing legitimate government unless the people, the entire republic says this leader needs to step down. And I'm going to advise African leaders, if the people rally and they say step down, it means you have to make changes. It means you have to take them seriously and provide what they ask you. If they want jobs, do your best. So that's where I'm going to stop here regarding these things.
Whenever there is such big assemblies and summits carried out, we hear different burning issues of Africa. We always hear problems related to food security, maladministration, coup attempt, terrorism, you see, displacement, migration, all this stuff. For instance, Secretary General of African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mohammed, in his remark said the growing number of terrorism acts and expansion of terrorism is the hot potato to the continent. What is your take up, and why terrorism is expanding in Africa? Why we always talk about problems? Why we ought to address the ever-existing problems? We always, when next summit comes and they obviously talk about different problems, we have never seen a very evaluated plan which had been proposed prior to this year, no execution measurement, but talking about this negative adjectives of Africa. What do you recommend for proper execution of different ambitious plans of the continent? And again, I would like to get back to my first question, why terrorism is alarmingly expands in the continent of Africa? Why not in Europe? Why not in America? Why not in Australia?
Now, when it comes to what we call modern terrorism today, right? A long time ago, I was reading the story of the Chinese. I'll give you an example. I was reading a story of China and the Mongols. When the Mongols were a fragmented group of people, what the Chinese government would do, they would pay different Mongol fractions to fight each other. They would pay them, they were putting money or influences, causing them to fight each other so they can remain divided. Because divided, you are weak. Together, you are strong, right? And if you want to continuously exploit someone's resource, you want to exploit their potential, you want to just constantly keep them in a state of reacting, fighting, conflict, where they can't really build, they can't develop. Anytime they build infrastructure, you put some force in there, destroy the infrastructure, then they take loans. Now, this is a business. This is a financial model for some people. Whatever external actors are out there, I believe the Africans don't manufacture guns. We don't manufacture guns. There is no manufacturing plant on the continent that produces AK-47 or pistols. No African country produces guns. So if they're getting guns, then that means that they have access to what? Somebody selling it to them. And the second thing is, we don't produce the US dollars. We don't produce the euros. Which printing press on the continent has euros or dollars produced? We don't have those. So because we don't have none of those things, you can't accuse us of having dollars to pay for arms. Where are we getting the dollars from? Where are we getting the euros to pay for arms? So somebody's either giving us free, somebody's either giving us the currency to pay for those arms, somebody's even either fueling the ideologies, because we've lived on that continent for hundreds, my brother, thousands of years where we coexist. Up to today, we still coexist. How come all of a sudden we now have a blood feud over ideologies that we never had before? And we have access to weapons, we have access to heavy equipment, heavy strategy to destabilize stuff. When did we learn all this stuff? Who's training us to do all these things? So the question as African people is, you cannot continue to be a puppet. It don't matter what you are or where you find yourself. You have to do it for your continent, your purpose, your destiny on this earth. Everybody else has their plan. Some people want to go to the moon. Some people want to go to Mars and sell real estate. You want to continue to destabilize your continent, then you can't complain. You can't complain why your continent is living the way it is. I'm saying to the African youth or the African people right now, your responsibility is not to let another person tell you to cause harm to your people. That's your responsibility. So in this issue of terrorism is external actors in bringing in resources to fund ideologies that we Africans don't or organically subscribe to, like the organic African paradigm. This is not our organic paradigm to fight for ideologies. We don't do this. We might fight for land, we might fight for power, but never ideologies. That's not our culture. So let's rethink it. That's what I can say about this. Let's rethink it. Let the youth, you're watching this, rethink this.
Let me go to another remark made by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on that podium. He said, the Africa we want is prosperous Africa with equitable and sustainable development. Would you buy this thought?
Absolutely. And not just that, he said without charity. He added without charity. So the key word here is without charity, meaning that a person who stands and can have equitable, sustainable development, social, economical capital, human, all of that stuff. That person can do it without charity. That person is pretty much self-sufficient. That's called being a superpower or world power. So he's talking about becoming a superpower. Many Africans are not going to see this. They're not going to fully understand what he's talking about. but the vision is for Africa to become a superpower like China is, like Russia is, like America is, like NATO is. We can no longer continue to be what you call a junior partner. So if he is proposing these things, these are serious initiatives. These are visions like for the continent wide, right? So I'm encouraging the young people, like when he listened to the message, he said, without charity. That means that without us, the aid culture is really, we got to get rid of that thing. So what he's saying is very much a vision for Africa superpower, world power. So I encourage the youth to go behind it.
Since you're always interested in Pan-African and Pan-Africanism, I would like to add you one remark came out from Abi's remark. We want a politically united continent that aspires to fulfill the ideals of Pan-Africanism. What does it mean by ideals of Pan-Africanism in your understanding?
So the ideas of Pan-Africanism, when we look at it, is politically united Africa. Means Africa should be able to negotiate as a political entity, one political entity. Politics, for most people, you think of politics as a theater where people go and act and they put on a performance and they give speeches. No, politics is your ability to negotiate what you want and what you need. Currently, Africa cannot negotiate what it wants, what it needs, because you function as small states, small fragmented groups of you don't have the weight to withstand a negotiation with like the UN, the United States or Russia or China. You might not make the best interest, right? Because you might be short-sighted in your decision. But when he says a Pan-African political union, we are talking about Africans, leaders coming together and negotiating based on the proper amount of what your resource is, what your resource is worth, what your coltan, your cobalt, or your minerals are worth. You're gonna place a price value on that. You're gonna decide what happens on the continent. You can negotiate with much higher leverage if you do it together. That's what political Pan-Africanism, negotiation. When you go to the negotiation table, you have a bunch of leaders sitting there, and America is on the one side, and they all speaking with one thought, one speech, and one action. That's what he's talking about. So we as Africans, you really need to take this very, very seriously. Political Pan-Africanism, it means our ability to negotiate what we want and we need for the best of the continent.
Again, let me go to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's insight again. He questioned to have an international media representation which tells African folks, African narratives, African virtues, African identities, and African cultures, which crap the false narrative of the global media. How do you see this ambition as well?
It's a beautiful ambition. This is what I talk about vision. You see, this is what I was talking about vision, right? I'm not saying this because I'm trying to, be some sort of, but I am talking about when you're in a position of leadership and you have plans and visions that people can execute, that people can follow, that shows the seed of leadership, the true essence of leadership right there. The African, African Union Continental Media House. That's what he said, right? African Union Continental Media House. Now, this is almost the best agenda. You talk about the ethnic problems that we have. The African Union Continental Media House can solve that problem by educating Africans, by finding the similarities that we Africans have and magnifying those similarities and distributing those similarities to the young generation. The African Media House can do this. The African media can challenge CNN, Washington Post, BBC, the African Media House can do this. The African Media House can do a lot of our problems that we're currently facing, communication problem. The African Media House can do this. This is a massive project. Let me tell you something. It's not something we should just listen to and say it's a speech. This is actually a tangible solution to Africa's problem. One of our major problems on that continent is the flow of information is too slow, because we don't possess a media house where the flow of information concerning Africa or all the things that we want for 2063, values, dignity, pride, all those type of things. This media house can be the distribution center of all those agendas, meaning that I think the African leaders, all of you, I'm talking to the African leaders now, the African youth of the continent, listen to me very carefully. Take this project very seriously. Put all your time and energy into making this goal of African Union Continental Media House a reality. I want the African Continental Union Media House. I want you guys to use this medium to fight tribalism, ethnic, and especially Western negativity of the continent. This is a perfect agenda. This is a perfect opportunity. This is a goal. This is a plan. I encourage all of you out there, the young people, make this a reality. Don't just sit and say, let the prime minister do it. He just, no. You take the initiative. You make this happen, because this will, whether he was talking about unity, this media house can facilitate African unity. I'm 100% behind the project. I encourage everybody on the African continent, the young people, please invest in this project. If there needs to be donations made, if there's money need to be put, make sure you put your $1 in to get this project going, and then we can have a voice, the Pan-African voice. The Prime Minister said Pan-African will have a voice. You know how important this is for Pan-Africans to have a voice?
Sure.
This is not a joke. So I really encourage the young people of the African continent, wherever you find yourself in the diaspora, put your money together and make this project a reality. We will never get a prime minister who talks like this. Until we build those type of prime minister, we support them when they bring out these type of projects. So that's what I want to tell every African on the continent. Prepare yourself to make this a reality. Thank you.
Okay. Mitri Manik, Pan-Africanist and initiator of Organic African Paradigm, thank you for your valuable insight, and thank you for sharing your valuable time as well.
Thank you, sir. And before I go, I just want to say, the youth, African youth, that continent belongs to you. It's your inheritance. So don't play with your inheritance. All right. Other people are looking at your inheritance and they will come for it. So do make everything that was said in that speech. The plan, we already have a plan now. Follow the plan. Put your money together, or take initiatives, volunteer, whatever you can do, make these plans a reality. This is what we call, by 2063, if we follow the plan that was laid out by the Prime Minister, I see Africa actually achieving a lot more. So thank you, OBN, Galatoma, again, for,
You're
for inviting
really welcome.
me. I will see you
You're
guys.
welcome.
I will see you guys on the next thing. And I wish all of you on the African continent so much positive and creation energy. And I say the one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. And the one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. And on behalf of the Organic African Paradigm, we really promote African people first. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Appreciate it. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. This brings you to the end of our edition for today. Bye-bye. See you next time with another edition.